Hello everyone and welcome back to 30 minutes of lunchtime chat for Whole Women's Week and International Women's Day, which was on Monday. So although it's Thursday today, happy International Women's Day still to you all. And today I'm joined by Lynda-Louise Burrell and Catherine Ross from Museumand, which is the National Caribbean Heritage Museum. Hello, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Just to make everyone aware as well, there's a slight couple of seconds delay in this interview. So if it just takes a couple of seconds, please just bear with us. So thank you again for joining us so much. Let's start with Museumand, because I love this concept. So it's the idea of a museum without walls. You're not based in any particular building. You go out, you travel about with these amazing exhibitions, talking to people and engaging. Where did it all start?
Well, it started when I retired, but it's been an idea that had been in germination for about 10 years prior to that. And so when I retired and I had the time to commit to it, I just got on with it. And I tried the first couple of months on my own, and my daughter said that they needed to get involved to help me to make it a real success. And so Lynda came in for 3 months, and she said, "I'll give you 3 months." And she's been here ever since. So she got bit by the heritage bug, and she's a part of that. But it was her concept that we, as we couldn't get a building at that time, just let's continue with the concept. People are excited about it, so let's just take it to them since they can't come to us.
Yeah.
I with the idea museum without walls. So yes, we take the museum to the people wherever they are, be that in churches, schools, in established museums like the V&A or the National Trust buildings. We also take it to council estates, shopping centres, garages, bus depots, all sorts of places to connect with people. So at the time that we started, people weren't going into museums in the same way. They were losing lots of their visitors. So we said, let's make a museum concept where people will be interested and want to come, and make it really engaging and tell stories that people want to hear in fun, interesting ways that would really engage with people. And that's what we've done. And the great thing about that is that the established museum and heritage spaces have seen how we've done things, and now they're adopting that approach too. So history and heritage and culture is really opening up for more people, which is a great thing.
Yeah. So what's your favourite place that you've taken an exhibition to so far?
Oh, wow. Favourite place?
I don't know about favourite, but interesting place was when we took it to a bus depot that had been converted. It was just an empty space, so we went in there, and we learned a lot of things. It was unusual, that exhibition, because more men than women came. So that was unusual for us. And they were able to tell us stories that perhaps Caribbean children had not heard from their parents who'd come in the Windrush years. So that was nice. It was a sort of different venue. And then we went the other way to grand places like National Trust properties. And it was really good to be in a house with historic connections to the Caribbean, and also it was more established, so people felt like they were going into a museum. And so we were able to bring all those people who are our supporters, etc., into a venue which they would not normally have gone to. But we love schools, because children, fresh, new minds that want to hear and want to learn, and so on. And one school we went to, the teacher said, yeah, we have to do more British social history, because children didn't know, I'm talking about children in schools now, in a lot of places, didn't know that there were terraced houses with an outside toilet. And it was like, they were like, oh, that's gross, having to go outside. And that was the norm then. And they turned back in front of a fire. Oh, no way. What about privacy? I thought, how times have changed.
Right, people always say but by telling those Caribbean stories, we told British history that these children wouldn't have heard before. So that was lovely, and the fact that the school does invite us back, you know, at least once or twice a year to tell other Caribbean stories, and then we're telling, you know, the British story as well, which is great.
Yeah.
Oh, but we do have to tell them about the takeaway.
Yes. Unfortunately, when you have a mum who was an ex-teacher and a trainer, everything's a learning moment. And actually, that's one of my sayings, isn't it? Yeah. Everything's a teachable moment. So again, and me being a little bit lazy, I said, Mum knows everything. I said to her one Christmas, Mum, what did the enslaved people eat at Christmas? She said, I don't know. Why don't you go and do some research and find out about it? And if it's quite interesting, maybe I'll make it into an exhibition. So over the Christmas break, well, just before Christmas, when I thought, you know, things were winding down, I got another project to do. But it was great, and a lot of our Caribbean food traditions that we still have today came from the food that the enslaved ate over the Christmas period. So we actually made that into a whole exhibition, and we took over one of the most beloved Caribbean takeaways in Nottingham. It was supposed to be for a week, and it was just over a month actually, because it just carried on going even after Christmas. And it was great. So it was an edible exhibition where you'd go up to get your food and you could choose, a bit like a Happy Meal. It came in a little box and it had a little craft in there, and it had all the information about the foods we were going to eat. And it was wonderful. We had some really strange things that were like a bit like a bush tucker trial and things that we don't eat now at all. I understand why we don't, because some things are awful.
Yeah, Caribbean haggis. They tried to replicate from the Scottish slave masters a haggis, and never to be eaten.
There were a few things that weren't great. It was nice to try and say, oh, that's what we're trying to make. Because obviously, you know, majority of the slave masters came from the UK. So all those great traditions that we have here now, that we know, from things from Sunday roast even, they tried to recreate that. We didn't have all the ingredients, so it didn't quite work. Then we have some great things, you know, from the rice and peas and the jerk chicken and the spices that the indentured servants brought over. So some of the great favourites were there, but some things have been dropped off for a very good reason.
And I love the idea that people can come to an exhibition and it's sensory. You can touch, you can eat, you can kind of really get stuck into it, rather than that idea that you go to a museum, you look at some paintings on the wall and then you kind of come back again, which I know a lot of people love to do. But there's something amazing about this idea of exhibitions that just travel about and you can really immerse yourself in them.
Yeah, and also you can make friends because people come and view it and start talking to other people. It's not where you just move through the building. Do you know what I mean? You actually stop, you say something, or you know, you ask questions, and people establish a rapport and then go somewhere to a coffee shop and carry on the conversations. Or they'll want to give us an oral history on the spot. We use that. We don't do that. Or have you got any more information on? So relationships build up, and it's really nice.
And that would be a great thing for most museums, but when everybody has a story to tell, and Catherine spends an hour with each person, I'm like, you've got to keep moving, you've got to keep moving. So we have engaging ways of trying to get people to tell their stories, but not always just to us two, because the museum's essentially us two. And it's great having, you know, people that want to engage with us and tell us, and they do become great friends of ours, to be honest. But sometimes, you know, having an hour conversation in the middle of a museum exhibition launch is a bit
I have to remind you, I'm the boss in this operation, so I don't want to talk for an hour.
Because I'm not sure if we said, well, mother and daughter, well, they do say, yeah, mother and daughter, so it's, you know, all those dynamics come into it too.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of laughs, but maybe the odd fight here and there, maybe.
Yeah, usually behind the scenes though, so just then we go on. We're all lovely.
It is quite work.
Thank you.
Back to what you said about being immersive. That's what we try and do, because again, you know, not so many people are going to museums that did before. So what we try and do is tell people the Caribbean story in the way they want to hear it. Yeah. So it has to be imaginative, it has to be fun, it has to be a teachable moment without people realising it's a teachable moment. So every exhibition that we do, and I'm the creative director and the curator, So every time Catherine comes up with an idea, and I try and bring it to life for people in a way that people would want to hear it, and I try and not do, no two exhibitions are the same. So you can't come in, we don't have a particular style, apart from being immersive and engaging. We just try and tell stories how we think people want to hear it today. And it must be working, because we do get large numbers, and we get such a variety, regular followers, but such a variety of different types of people, different ethnicities, different ages. We get families, what sort of other
Politicians.
people? From politicians to hoodies, I always say, and they're always conversing together, because, you know, we do try and bring people together as well. It's not just, you know, you just walk around and, like Catherine was saying, you just look at the walls and you walk past. People do stop and talk and stop and share, which makes it always a very different experience when we work. And I think that's why a lot of the establishment also bring us in, because they don't have that sort of rapport with their visitors. So they want to learn from how we do things. But as long as the Caribbean story is getting out there, that's the biggest thing, because people have so many misconceptions about us as a people, our history and our heritage, or that we don't have a history and heritage. Even though they do like to appropriate the little we do have, but no, so we just show that we do have a history and heritage that we're really proud of and it's really strong, and we just try and tell those stories in really imaginative, interesting ways.
Can I ask a little bit about both of your backgrounds? Because obviously we've spoken before, and I know that you've both got really, really interesting stories to tell about your journey up to now, and we could talk for ages about this, but if you could give me a bit of a snapshot about kind of your journey up to this point and up to Museumand, how would you tell that story? And Catherine, I'll start with you.
Yeah, all right. My first career was as a lawyer. I went into articles and was training to do that. But I didn't complete because I got pregnant. And then I went into accountancy, which I thought was the next best paid profession, or it was at that time. But also they were professions in which Black people were not visible. There were a number of Black people, but they had come from abroad to experience English accountancy or English law. But homegrown people like myself, who came here when I was 7 and so had my education here, there weren't many, and it was unique on top of that because I was a woman. So as I didn't complete either of those things, because my family came along, I developed very quickly a portfolio career. So then I now knew a lot about law, I knew a lot about accountancy, so I went into teaching both of those things in order to be able to be a mum and raise the children. I'd get the holidays and so on. So that was great. And I've gone on to do national training and so on. So I'm an educator, and I see my heritage work as another arm of that. I'm giving information to people and helping to explain to people. And the museum, I think, empowers, and that's what I think my life story is all about. I like empowering people. And I thought I had a great career, because you bump into people and they'll say, oh, you used to teach me, or are you the person who? And I love that. But I think Lynda's had the best career, perhaps.
Let me just add to that as well, because Lynda always downplays what she's done. She's also been director in the Scouts.
Yeah, I work nationally for the Scout Association, the British Red Cross, and so on. All of those areas I've done training and development. So yeah, I love bringing people on. Yeah.
But with me, I've always wanted to be since about 11. The first time I wanted to have a sweet shop and a fish and chip van when I was really young.
You can see what she enjoys.
And from about 11, I wanted to be a fashion designer and also a fashion journalist. And my mum's always, again, being an educator, has always said, no matter what you want to do, as long as you write it down, make a plan, have steps in there that are really, you know, you can actually achieve, you'll be whoever, whatever you want to be. And I've lived my life by that. Even today, when I came up with another idea for an exhibition, have you written it down yet? I know I'm not doing it. So I wanted to be a designer. I wanted to work for Jacobs. And so I went through fashion college. And, we made a plan to do that, and I got really into getting like collecting retro fashion and vintage fashion that Mum would always drive me around to do every weekend. And so I went to work for Marc Jacobs after I finished university, and that was wonderful. That was everything.
And spent 13 years, was it, in the States?
In New York, yeah. 11
years.
Wow.
After that, I went back and forth for different jobs and what have you. So I worked with Mark, and I got to New York on the Saturday. On the Sunday, I went to get false nails, like American style, so I thought that was a thing. And on the Monday, Mark said, "Can you sketch me some pinafore dresses for the show?" Because it was coming up to the fashion show. I couldn't even hold a pencil. I don't think about that. So that was great, and we still have quite a good rapport. But I'd always do little things like that. Or like one day I got lost going to pick up some samples, and I got lost for the whole day. And I thought, how are we going to call her mum and say we've killed her? But it was wonderful. I had a great time there. I learned a lot. And from there, once you've worked somewhere like that, you get poached all the time. People want to work with you. So I worked with all of my favourite models at the time, all of my favourite stylists through Mark, worked with all my favourite photographers through Mark. Then I got a job at Vogue Patterns in New York. So I was making patterns of clothes to sell on. That was a wonderful job. And through there, we also had a magazine. So I started doing my fashion editing. And then from there, I was called one day by a huge fashion editor called Laurie Goldstein, who works a lot with, oh my gosh, what's his name? Stephen Meisel. So then my whole world changed. Then I was working with Vogue, especially Italian Vogue. There's a lot of Italian Vogue, working with people like Pat McGrath. Then I also got to work at American Vogue, because these people were at the top of their tree, and work for lots of different magazines. So I speak really fast when I get excited, so I'll slow down. And then after working there, I worked for lots of different freelance editors as their first assistant. And then I got a full-time freelance job at Marie Claire in New York. And then my life really changed, because then I was an editor.
Yeah.
And then from there, I left there because I wanted to, working at the magazine, I was working so closely with all the different departments. So I wanted to start my own nail polish brand. So I love getting my nails done weekly. And I started a nail polish brand, but because I wanted to actually have a building and actually not just make nail polish, but actually do a service, I moved back to England. And so this all took 11 years to do all the different designing and editing. Moved back to England, and I started a company called Nail Girls with my sister. And we, like I said, made fashion nail polishes that went with the fashion seasons. They changed every couple of months. And we also had a flagship nail spa, but then we went into Debenhams across Scotland, and that was wonderful. So I did that, and then when I closed that business, I said I was going to make my own cookbook of my family recipes and anecdotes and stories about our connection to Caribbean food.
Yeah.
And I did quite a lot of that, and I've read most of it actually. And then my mum started Museumand, and I was like, actually, it wasn't even called Museumand then. I changed everything. So I call it Museumand because it's not just a museum; it's a museum and more. And it's a brand name rather than using what's that word that I hate? Acronyms. I hate acronyms. They're so 1980s.
Which is what I had before.
So I changed it to Museumand. The great thing about the name is people go, "What? What's that?" So that it's already a talking point. And when I explain and the way that we work, they all go, "Oh, I get it." So that was wonderful. And we started the museum. And the great thing about the museum is I get to do all of my passions because it's so creative. So I get to work with great creatives and artists. I get to talk about my history and heritage and get to learn at the same time.
Yeah.
And like Catherine was saying, it's so empowering. And because I'm older now and I'm very outspoken and confident, I like to challenge, and when people say things about my culture, the derogatory things, I want to be championed, be able to shout from an educated standpoint and say, actually, that's not right. And this is the real story.
Yeah.
And you know, for future generations, I don't have children, but for future generations, I want to make sure that every Black child, every brown child of mixed heritage are proud of who they are and not told, you know, negative things about themselves and believe those negative things and stereotypes. And so obviously we do that for children and for Black children, but also just as a woman as well. And obviously being Women's Week, International Women's Week, it's so important that people realise that they, you know, shouldn't always be kept in the corner, and they shouldn't have to shut up and put up.
Yeah.
And they have a voice and they have allies to stand with them. Yeah. And that's what we do through the museum. Well, I hope I do that.
You do that. I know. I mean, obviously I haven't been to any of your exhibitions, but we've spoken a few times and I've read quite a lot about your work to prepare, obviously, for talking to you. And I can see that you do that, and you are changing misconceptions and people's ideas about Caribbean culture. It is an incredible thing. And I'll just say now, everyone watching needs to go and check it out. And what is your website address so everyone can go and have a look?
It's www.museumand.org.
Yeah, go and have a look. It's really important. Are you on social media as well? I'm giving you a big plug here. Everyone needs to go and have a look.
Yes, yes, you are. And thank you. We are on social media, but we are coming to Hull and District.
So Facebook. Catherine doesn't do social media. We're on it, which is the way. Facebook and Instagram is just Museumand, but with Twitter it's Museumand_.
Okay. And you coming to Hull?
Yeah. Because, you know, a lot of plantation owners left the area, Yorkshire, and went to the Caribbean and introduced a number of your signature dishes, your area's dishes to us. And we've Caribbeanized them, we've turned them into our things and brought them back to you. So in a lot of Caribbean restaurants and takeaways, some of the things you eat are some of the things you brought to us originally. And we've turned it around.
One of the exhibitions we're going to be doing right is about food. Yeah. We're going to be doing some other things as well. And can't say too much, it'll be amazing. So you have to come. And,
it's going to be a great year. 2021, 22 is going to be a great year in Hull because we're bringing the Caribbean stories there. But anybody who's listening to this, when you see us, when you come to our events, do say hello.
Give us a wave.
So yeah. When we go on air and we say we'd like to speak to people, don't be shy. We're not. And you'll find that we've got a lot in common, and that wherever we go, we find we have a lot of common with white British people. Our history is shared.
I'm sure people in Hull, what are you called? Hellenians?
Hallensians.
Hallensians. I'm sure Hallensians will think, well, we've got a lot to do with the Caribbean story, and there's been a lot of Caribbeans in your area since I hope the people, the scholars and Trevor and Nick aren't watching. I might get my dates wrong, but since like the 16th century, 17th century. So the stories there to tell, and they're really exciting stories, and you'll be really interested in what we've got to say and thinking, really, I didn't know that about our area. We've got a lot to be proud of.
It's amazing. I can't wait. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah. Starting about September.
Yeah,
we're starting September.
Oh, okay. So everyone needs to definitely watch out for that and come and say hello and have a chat.
Please.
Well, our time's nearly up, which I'm really sad about because I could talk to you both forever. But one last question before you go, because it's Hull Women's Week and we've been talking a lot this week about women supporting other women and championing other women. If you were to meet or have a dinner party with any women in history, who would you choose?
Me. Not me. Not me. Just me, all my favourite food spread out. Oprah Winfrey. known for the Meghan Markle debacle, and Meghan Markle, there. And yeah, I love those two women. Courageous, strong, speak the truth, which we all need to do. And then also Pat McGrath, the British from Caribbean descent international makeup artist. Pat McGrath. And also Edward background. Edward Enfield.
She doesn't belong to me.
Who is first Black British editor of Vogue. So him, and then also Queen Charlotte, who was the first biracial Queen of England, Black Queen of England, and she was married to George III. And you know, there's people say that whenever a Black Queen, she was there. The woman in Bridgerton plays her very well, and she was biracial. And lot of the historical documents said that when they saw her, they had to make sure she was black all over. It didn't just her face. And but over the years, the paintings of her, they've lightened her so much so. A lot of the painting, which majority of the paintings of her, she looks white.
Yeah,
so
you wouldn't have
realise
known that she was any colour at all, the way the pictures have treated her. But what was the indignity was having to check, you know, have her undressed to check that she was black all over and it wasn't just her face. Indignities have been going on for a while. But I want to tell you about mine. My characters are all historic. My people. My people who are going to come to my dinner party are going to be Nanny Ampong, who was a woman who was a warrior. She led lots of rebellions against the British and chose to live in the hills, which were good hideouts.
She was an enslaved woman.
An enslaved woman that came from Ghana. And I think that's great because it was a woman who was leading the men to stand up for their rights. I like that. Very brave and courageous. She didn't let her gender hold her back. And then there was Catherine Despard, a mixed race person who came to England with her husband because he'd been summoned to come back to England to explain to the government about a role he was given. But I'd like to talk to her because at the moment now, a lot of people are in mixed relationships. I'd like to know, how was it then? Do you know what I mean? What sort of issues she went through and what was it like for her children? All the things that, you know, are currently in the news at the moment. But we have lots of white people in our families. So it'd be interesting to compare what I know with what her experience was.
She was also portrayed in Poldark. I don't remember that show.
Yeah. But also what was special about her, she challenged the prison, because her husband then was imprisoned, and prisons in those days were really horrid places. And she championed the fact that people should be able to get things like pen and paper to write and things to stimulate while they were in there. And this was before Elizabeth Fry, which, sorry, I have to we were there first. Catherine Despard. Then I'd want Mary Prince. I think a lot of people have heard about Mary Prince, had a terrible life, but in that ingenuity of women, she was able to be a businesswoman and to be able to not have to just live on slave food and to be able to dress a little better than as slaves were, because she had business acumen. And that's what I need, that we can make our first million.
She was the first enslaved person. Well, she got her own freedom, got herself out into freedom. But she wrote a book, the first person to write a book.
Yeah, that's it. Lots of things. They're not just first for one thing, but for a number of things. They're really inspirational. And then I wanted to have my mum, because my mum was amazing. Anything I am is really down to her. She brought me here when I was 7, and you know, she introduced me to things, and she was there to mop my brows, wipe my tears when things were difficult, as we all tried to adjust to the UK. But I wanted to see that she was standing on the shoulders of all these other women that I've been talking about. So she is as great to me as they are. So I'd want to say that. And because also, don't forget, children don't always tell parents how wonderful they think they are. Yeah. And so,
Then, but I do.
Just then, yeah. So I wanted to know that, you know, she's from her descendants were strong women, and that it's made a difference to my life. So yeah, that's
amazing
my
choices. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and happy Women's Week to you both.
We've been loving it. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. And to you, thanks for making this possible.